So someone has their window open because I can hear wind. I can hear
Oh no,
blowing.
I have a fan on because it's hot as hell. I'm sorry, I was intending
you
to
are.
turn it off when the recording started anyway.
Whoa, guys! Did Vicky just flirt?
Why do you think it's been so hot? She's been flirting for the last hour and a half while I've been waiting for you. It's been hella uncomfortable.
Well, I'd like you all to know that I wore a specific T-shirt for you all today. Thank you very much.
A Lannister t-shirt?
Well, yeah.
Get
I've got
out.
blonde hair. I've got blue eyes.
Take that for what you will.
Welcome to this call, everybody. It just got very intense very quickly.
So, to bring back the subject of the conversation, what are we doing here today?
I thought you were going to finish your story that you were telling me.
Look, we just started the subject of the conversation. Game of Thrones!
So what we're talking about is Game of Thrones, specifically the last season, but Game of Thrones in general. We're going to be ranting about it because last week we did a 2-hour recording after 14 hours of me watching all the seasons of RWBY in one day. It's Vicky's fault. I fully blame Vicky.
I love you.
But today we're going to be talking about Game of Thrones because we agreed that we would get Simon on because he's a fan favorite.
I shall start. A long time ago, when season 8 was just coming out, the last episode was airing, I watched in awe and I saw Tyrion make his speech about democracy and how the world is changing. And then he turned to some kid in a wheelchair and said, "Do you want to be king?" And by that point, I picked up my phone when the episode ended. And I made a very famous phone call to a certain someone. And thank God, the house was empty. Because I screamed at the top of my lungs, "What the fuck was that?"
He literally called me after I told Vicky this story already, but he literally called me after he watched the last episode of the last season, and the first words out of his mouth were like revelation from the heavens. What the fuck was that?
And then, from then on, 1 hour conversation. I was sweating by the end of it.
The thing with Game of Thrones was, I didn't get into it until maybe like the 5th season. Because it was like a popular fad, I wasn't like really into it. But people kept saying like, oh, the story is really good. Like, yeah, like it's got a lot of cult following. Well, it doesn't have a cult following. It has a very mainstream following. But the story is actually pretty good, and the characters are really real, and like everybody dies and are really surprising, and really like it keeps you guessing. It's a show that keeps you guessing. So I was like, okay, I'll watch the first season. After they killed Daddy Sean Bean, I was like, okay, well, it's a pretty decent show. Didn't expect him to die so early.
In the first season, it builds you up. It builds you up to believe in certain things, and then you think only you. Yeah, and then it crushes you.
After season 5, I feel like 6, 7, 8 was the start of a really long downward spiral.
I'm going to say this. My favourite episode is actually from when Jon Snow died. Well, no, not when Jon Snow died, but after Jon Snow died. The Battle of the Bastards, where Ramsay and Jon...
Bastards was a good episode.
That was my favourite episode, because it was just wonderful. It was a fantastic battle sequence. I feel like things started to go downhill when... I feel like the downfall was when Dany actually got to Westeros.
When they suddenly changed her motive, that's when at least it became obvious that things were off.
When did she change her motive?
Well, throughout the whole thing, she's been like, I'm not going to hurt anyone, I'm not going to harm anyone, I'm going to be a different ruler to Cersei.
Right.
Yes, it's all sad that her friend died, yeah, whatever, cool. But that doesn't mean she has to... That doesn't mean she has to burn down an entire kingdom just to get what she wants.
So here's the thing with Dany. Like, I've lost subscribers, I've lost followers because I don't like Daenerys. I've never.
I hate her.
I don't like her. I only liked Daenerys' character when she was with Khal Drogo. I thought that was...
Oh, he's hot. Khal Drogo is so hot.
Okay, I didn't like Khal Drogo either, but yes, he's hot.
I liked his face.
Yeah, his face. That's what he was hot for, his face. I liked her while she was with the Dothraki. I thought that there was a lot of character development there. She went from like an innocent little like girl who like became this strong Khaleesi kind of character. But after he dies, I feel like it goes to the wall with her. Like, she just has this massive fucking ego, this massive sense of entitlement. She has no leadership skills, yet she feels entitled to lead and get everything she wants. She solves all of her problems with dragons. And
she doesn't even fight, she just commands people to fight.
Even though she preaches non-violence and she wants to be different to all of these rulers, she solves all of her problems with violence. And in the most gruesome possible way ever. Go ahead, Simon.
Mrs. May I speak, please?
Yes.
No.
Thank you very much.
I liked that in season 2 when she went to Karth and said like, I need ships, I need armies, I need it now because of a dream. I'm an all-seeing goddess. I liked that they actually played that down. Like, characters were literally sitting there just going, you have no army, you have no ships, you're wishing it on passions and dreams.
Yeah.
Yeah, no thanks. And I actually kind of like that, because then that put her down a peg, and it didn't feel like the story was trying to put her up a peg. It put her down a peg, which was great. You're right in the fact that I agree with Vicky that she got others to do the fighting for her, rather than they're like, oh, she's a strong, influential woman. If you read into it, she's not. She falls into that category that women are just gonna love men. They'll just sleep with any men and whatever, and she'll fall in love like a princess. Hold on, bear with me here.
Go ahead.
She also gets men and her council to tell her what to do, and that's a great thing for a ruler. But she's just saying, fight these men for me, and she feels like a dandy princess. I would have actually liked her to be a parallel of Aegon the Conqueror came along and used Dark Sister, riding a dragon with armor and a sword. And I would have actually appreciated that she is a war queen rather than just a
Commander.
Do it for me. Yeah,
well, this
exactly.
is the thing. Like, I would have thought, like, with her growing closer to the whole Dothraki culture, she would have
ended up more like that.
But like, I had a comment to make before, is that she is the thing about her. Like, if we compare, because I think that she and Cersei are meant to be foils of each other. They're meant to be like two characters that are meant to like reflect each other in some way.
The symmetry theory!
Cersei kind of does have a trial by fire. Like, I really didn't like her at the beginning because she had that sense of entitlement. She had that sense of, like, I'm the queen and I get to do whatever the fuck. Like, I have these sons who are complete dickheads and all of that, right? Like, that was her whole position. But after her children slowly die, one after the other, and she goes through this trial by fire, she does, in my opinion, become quite a strong woman. And I kind of really liked her character development towards the end. With Daenerys, she's kind of been the same person since, like, season 2 all the way through to the end. She's constantly rewarded for her sense of entitlement. Like, with Tyrion and all of the other council members, there seems to be this idea that just because she's a Targaryen, she somehow has the right to rule without showing any kind of fitness to actually rule. Like, the one thing she does that's questionably good is that she frees all the slaves, but she burns all of the masters and she crucifies all of them. And then the people who want to be sold back into slavery, she doesn't like really allow that. She disappears on her dragon at one point, just out of nowhere, and then leaves it in the hands of Tyrion, who is a less than competent leader in that world. She doesn't know how to deal with the Sons of the Harpy. She literally burns all of the other leaders to death. Like, that was her solution. And then, in a destabilized area, she leaves the leader of, the Second Sons? Darren Harris. She leaves the leader of a mercenary company to rule an entire area that's completely destabilized. Like, the climate of that area has completely changed. For her, if in my opinion, if she was to have a full character development, in my opinion, she never would have gone back to Westeros. She would have stayed in that area and she would have stabilized it, as a good leader should. But instead, she's not a leader, she's just a conqueror. She's literally just Robert Baratheon with tits.
Going back to your whole symmetry theory, she's meant to mirror Cersei and be this total opposite, but in reality it's more of a two sides of the same coin.
In my opinion, she's so much worse.
At least Cersei undergoes some development and you can see where her entitlement actually comes from.
Yeah.
Whereas with Daenerys, yes, it says that you should be queen, but you're not, and you're just wanting something that you shouldn't really have. Also, what the fuck would you name your dragon after your dickhead of a brother? You know that's going to spell disaster.
It's called foreshadowing.
Foreshadowing.
I don't know. Daenerys is
what
weird.
A waste of my time that was.
Daenerys is weird.
That dragon's gone under ice. Oh, ice dragon. So scary. Bloody predictable.
From season 2, just wanted her to die. I was just waiting for her to die. I knew she wouldn't, but she was the most annoying character on screen. The most annoying storyline was Bran's, even in the books, because I also read all the books up until where we are now.
He's a pain in the neck. He can't do anything for himself. He just wheels around and tries to spit prophecy, and I'm like, no.
There is something to be said about Bran's story.
What's that?
No.
Bran's story.
Shut up.
Bran's story was actually, I felt it was leading to something. It was leading to something big, something that had answers. So it kept me going. So I liked his story, and then when Hold the Door happened, it was something that was like foreshadowing. It was like, oh, what could that mean? What could that mean further? I was never like, oh yes, Bran's story. It was like Frodo's and Sam's story. You know, you see those two together, and it's just like, oh, okay. Well, let's follow them because it's interesting.
Well, Sam's story is amazing, in my opinion. But
yeah, but I always
You are right in that, you know, you follow them to reach the end. Like, you want to know how this plays out. Yeah, and Bran never had an ending. It was always left more questions than answers. At the Battle of Winterfell, like, my god, that episode.
We're not talking about that yet. That's
we're not getting there yet. We're going to build to that, but I'm just going to touch on it just here. When he was there and he was just like, I'm going to go now, and then he just turned into a bunch of crows, nothing happened. Nothing happened. And that's what frustrated me the most, was just that he has all this power, and well, not even all this power, he has time-traveling abilities. Why does he have those time-traveling abilities? He's a three-eyed raven. What does that mean? Oh, the Night King wants to kill him because he's the memory of the world. What? And it's like, Bran and the Night King had a connection, like when he touched him.
If the hold on. Just give me a sec here. If the Night King wanted to kill the three-eyed raven because they're the memory of the world, why would they bother attacking anybody else? The three-eyed raven was in their realm.
Oh yeah, I'd forgotten about that. I got too angry at Daenerys.
This is things that just aren't answered about Bran and his connection to the Night King. There is no real explanation aside from the fact that he touched him once. And I mean, you know, that sounds like a different story, but Bran's story left more questions than answers. And then when he became the king, you know, I felt underwhelmed.
One of the reasons it went downhill, I think it was less talking as the seasons went on.
Yeah.
So they were showing us more than whatever way around it is.
Yeah.
They were kind of focusing more on action rather than dialogue, which allowed like characters to connect with each other and us as watchers.
I'm not sure that's true, but go on.
I can't remember. I lost my track. I'm drinking.
Okay.
I do agree with Vicky in that they wanted more flash rather than more tell.
Which is a shame because most of Game of Thrones is tell.
Yeah, exactly. And in some cases, people will say, "Oh, show don't tell," but with Game of Thrones,
work that way for that.
Yeah, with Game of Thrones.
Sorry, go on.
There's a lot of dialogue that characters need.
Yeah, I think with any high fantasy story, because the world is something you're constructing essentially out of nothing. Like you dictate the landscape, you dictate the characters, you dictate, the mythical creatures and all of that. There has to be a lot of tell, because otherwise you don't set up the world well enough for people to be invested in it. Like, imagine Lord of the Rings, but it was just like they just threw you into this world of dwarves, elves, and halflings, right? And they didn't give any context for it.
Yeah,
it would be madness. It would be like watching Rick and Morty on acid. Like it would suck.
Yeah, but by the later seasons, the whole thing is established. They shouldn't need to keep going back over it.
No, but because there's so much politics involved, and there's so many, like, for example, explaining that Bran is the history of the world. The fuck does that mean?
I've nearly finished my drink.
The other thing I wanted to say is that I was really, really fascinated by the Night King and the lore surrounding the Night King. Because there were a lot of fan theories that I watched, like, before, because it took 2 fucking years to put out that pile of garbage. I was really, really invested in, like, watching fan theories and all of the lore surrounding it, and how, like, the Night's Watch had made pacts with the White Walkers and things like that from, like, eons and eons and eons ago. So I was, like, really interested to see some character. Maybe it was too much to expect because the Night King has no words at all, for whatever reason. But I expected, some kind of character development, because all of the characters in Game of Thrones don't necessarily have, like, one side to them. So that's what I kind of expected for the Night King.
I personally had 2 things I wanted.
What?
Well, one, I thought it'd be interesting, because, they've been building up to, like, the White Walkers and the Night King for a long time. I was like, maybe if, like, the Night King sits on the throne at the end.
That's what I wanted.
I was like, that'd be cool. I didn't want him to be killed so easily. Because, as we've been saying, he's been built up to be this really tough, strong force. Even the producers and writers, they were saying, look, we don't want the Night King to be killed easily.
I'll say this, and this is a controversial statement, I know.
I don't like it already.
It's fine. We've had
the Whites and the White Walkers throughout the entirety of Game of Thrones is the weakest, worst part of the entire thing.
Agreed.
The only bit that I liked between White Walkers and Whites was the Battle of Hardhome, because it was gruesome, it was cool, it was action-packed, and I was sat there thinking, like, this is the horror that I want. It's like a different kind of horror. It's not like, oh, jump scare. It's like, oh, that's grim. So I liked it.
Threat, yeah.
But Whites and White Walkers do not fit in the world of Game of Thrones, and it doesn't fit with the story. The story is around politics, humans, and conversations, not mindless zombies being the imminent threat.
I felt like they were kind of shoehorned in.
Yeah.
It's like when you're halfway through an essay and you're like, oh god, I haven't put this vital bit in.
I do think that, I think they could have made it fit better, because I thought it was an interesting element to see how, these really ambitious political human beings would act in the wake of an imminent threat. And I think people have compared it to, like, us humans in the wake of global warming and all of that,
right,
because it's a natural element. Then they had the birth of dragons, which is like the opposite to the White Walkers or whatever. I feel like it could have been developed better, and it just wasn't. And I just did not understand why you would include it if you weren't gonna develop it as like, because the way that I saw it, because my yardstick is Lord of the Rings. Like if we were to compare it to Lord of the Rings, like the White Walkers are essentially like the fallen Valar, like Sauron and all his like thing. But the thing with Sauron is that all this like legend and mystery around him made him so evil. You know, like all of the, like when you think Sauron, you think of like the tower with the massive eye who watches everything and is bringing the darkness. It's like chilling. But when you think of White Walkers, you're just like, okay, so they're just the sons of Craster and they're not zombies.
Yeah, so that's what I didn't like about Game of Thrones as a whole. I liked the politics, but every time we went to Jon Snow conquering talking about the White Walkers or going to look for the White Walkers.
No wonder nobody wanted to help him. He's so fucking dead.
They could have just said that rather than like, oh, then the White Walkers will come and there'll be no one left to sing.
That was a good accent.
I would have liked to have seen like a White Walker literally just in the midst, just like cutting down someone, and then Brienne goes in for a challenge, and then like they cut a White Walker down and like a bunch of whites around them just suddenly burst. Great, there's hope. Suddenly, like, oh, if we kill the White Walkers, then the whites are starting to die. That's great.
It
cool.
Happened in levels, I think.
Yeah, exactly. And then, like, I don't know, Jon is just like, everyone with a Valyrian steel sword, go and kill all the whites. And then, like, I don't know, like, they kill them one by one.
Behind an ice rock while a dragon is.
Well, yeah. Instead of that,
I have a question. Who in that battle? So we're on the Battle of Winterfell now. Who in that battle didn't die that should have been dead?
Jorah.
Oh, Jorah did die.
No, he should have died at the beginning. He should have charged with the Dothraki and died immediately.
True.
Because then that sets a stake of like, oh shit, even he's not safe. No one is safe. But he just was just cantering along with a little bit of a scar on his face, just going,
it off, yeah.
Whew! Wow, God, that was
there's a character who I wish died in there, but I can't remember like I can't remember their name, but I remember the face.
Sam?
Sam should have been dead as hell.
Sam should have been dead as hell. And
Jaime should have been dead as hell. I love Jaime Lannister. He's my favourite fucking character in the whole story. But the man.
His death was awful. His death was just.
We're not moving on to that yet. We're not getting onto the second to last episode. We're not there yet.
You two are gonna go mad.
You know what? All of the fucking scenic dragon flying needed to go.
I don't care about the bloody dragons.
No one gives a fuck about the dragons. We literally forgot about the other two.
No, that's unfortunately that's where you guys are wrong. Everybody cares about the dragons. Everybody loves that. Wow, Daenerys and her dragons. Davos, that's his name.
Davos should have died.
Davos should have died because he's not a fighter. And I like Davos.
Daenerys should have died.
Yes, Daenerys should have died as well.
I don't know where she just decided she knew how to hold a fucking sword. Oh, that's what pissed me off as well. I saw somebody's tweet and I was fuming. They were like, oh, Daenerys wears braids and her hair is so long is because Dothraki leaders don't cut off their braids until they've been defeated. It's like...
Because she's a Dothraki.
How many times has she been defeated?
Too many.
So many times. That woman is a walking failure who just refuses to accept it.
Talking about Jon Snow's heritage of being a Targaryen. Here we go, ladies and gentlemen.
We're getting into the good
facts now.
I hate
right.
it.
Stop, that hurts.
Never.
So his whole story was that he was a lie to keep him alive, which I thought was great from the beginning, like fantastic, and then we found out in a good way that was basically Bran saying like, oh shit, oh no, my brother is actually this, which is great. And then when he finds out, I was just like, okay, cool. Wasn't the most delivered thing, but it was okay. Then it just stopped. And the whole thing of like Daenerys saying like, I've wanted this power forever, and now you're coming along to take it away from me, and then him saying the famous line,
"You're my queen."
It would just went from it just Oh god, what's his name? Uh-oh. Who's the bald guy with the spies?
Varys.
Varys!
Thank you.
Do you know what I was going to say? I was going to say the bald guy with the children. That would have sounded really bad. That would have sounded really bad.
He's a eunuch. Leave him alone.
Yeah, him and Tyrion and Varys plotting against Daenerys, and like wanting to put Jon Snow on the throne. It was never further developed. It was just like, Jon, do you want it? No, she is my queen.
Oh,
and
I love how the moment Varys sees Daenerys fucking up Westeros, he realizes she's bad queen. It didn't mean anything when she was fucking up the rest of the world. It was fine, you know. And Tyrion, by the way, they're both at fault. Like up until then, she, you know, the moment she burns the two fucking Tarly people, she's evil. But when she was burning the rest of the fucking world, it was fine, you know. She's a wonderful leader. She's gonna come here and she's gonna break the wheel. What do you think was gonna fucking happen? She solves all her problems with fire. It's like putting me on the throne. Fuck's sake. Terrible idea.
Can we just back up here for a second? You solve all your problems with fire.
I love how everyone hated incest when Jaime and, you know, Cersei were doing it. But the moment Jon and Daenerys were doing it, everyone loved the idea.
I'm sorry, no, I'm not. That was the most sickening and disgusting thing on the planet.
It was the most sickening thing I've ever seen on Twitter, and I've seen shit on Twitter.
You know, like with Cersei and what's his fucking name? Jaime. That's it.
Yeah.
It was more openly like spelled out like you are siblings, you are having incest. Whereas with Daenerys and Jon, because they were fan favourites, people were able to excuse it and be like, well, they're not brother and sister, so it doesn't really count. I'm like, it does count.
Okay,
whoa, what are you doing, step bro?
It's worse because she's his aunt.
That made it so much more disgusting.
Which house sucked the most?
A really good question. Really good question. Right. Let's think on this. Worst house, I would actually say, is probably House Greyjoy.
I would have to agree.
Yeah.
I was very disappointed by House Greyjoy. Because I generally, I mean, me liking Vikings and pirates and stuff, generally, I would like House Greyjoy. Because I like the idea of like savagery and like humanness and raw survival and all of that. I think that's a really interesting way of living. Not necessarily, well, I'm lying, I would want to live like that.
The only one I felt was interesting was Yara Greyjoy. I feel like she had character to her, and like the what was his name? He was Euron Greyjoy. Him in the books was this pirate who had seen the world, who had travelled and captured like magical objects and seen like a whole host of different things. In this, he was just a crazy uncle. Oh,
he was a crazy uncle. I expected him to be worse than Ramsay because that's the theme they had going. Like they had like Joffrey in the beginning, who was like the worst piece of shit we'd ever seen. And there was Ramsay Bolton, who was worse than that piece of shit. But like, I expected Euron Greyjoy to be worse than Ramsay Bolton.
I was going to say the Tyrells.
I liked the Tyrells.
First of all, the Tyrells had Natalie Dormer. She's more than hot. She's more than hot. Oh my god, she has she pulled off a half shave like no tomorrow, and I was just sat there just drooling. Anyway. I like the Tyrells because they embody a house with power that doesn't have a military. So they use manipulation schemes and they're very political, very political. So they have a strong army, no doubt about it. But they're not a powerhouse for war. They
don't use brute strength. That's
they don't.
It's political manipulation. And so the alliance between the Lannisters and the Tyrells, I think, was actually one of the most interesting parts of Game of Thrones because they both hated each other, but they needed each other. And so they just like were constantly doing this with each other.
And also, Lena Tyrell was a bad bitch.
Oh, she
I'm
was
sorry.
great.
Oh, she was brilliant.
I didn't particularly like the Baratheons either.
The Baratheons are one of my favourite houses.
Oh, really?
They
Idiots. Stupid fucking bastards. Carry on.
Thank you. They embody a house built for war. They embody strength and brutishness, which is why when they were put on the throne, they didn't do so well because, you know, it's just like, what is politics? I just want to smash stuff. Do you remember the famous phrase? Do you remember me at 16? All I wanted to do was crack skulls and fuck girls. That's Baratheon. That's just
Simon, everybody.
And that's why, I mean, that's still me at 22, but whatever. But
Stannis was the longest standing Baratheon. He was the one who lived the longest.
Yes, true. Stannis, I liked his complex ideals. So,
I didn't think his ideals were very complex at all.
No,
He put all his eggs in one basket.
He had a human idea of like a past mistake doesn't right your wrong now. So like if you did good in the past, it doesn't right the bad that you've done. And I liked his need for like a sense of purpose, I felt.
Yeah,
and
there was that, but I also didn't like that. Again, like he put all his eggs in the Lord of Fire's kind of.
Oh yeah, I felt that was weak. I felt that was a weak part, and I hate the Lord of Light as a concept because it's never.
This is something else that I wanted to talk about. Actually.
It's never developed upon.
Speak to Stannis again. It's just that moment where he burns his daughter alive, and like that, I would say is like a really striking moment of, I think it's in season 6. Where his zeal for his religion and his need to save the people, like his army, and his need to beat Ramsay Bolton drives him to sacrifice his own daughter so that the Lord of Light can melt the snow or whatever. That like really fucked me up. Like I was like, oh, this is. Sorry.
Vicky is bursting to speak.
Sorry,
she has been trying to get in. She's been like, no
This is what happens when the three of us get together. It's just me and Simon talking, and Vicky just desperately trying to get a word in.
Go on, Vicky.
No, carry on. I'm not going to talk now.
No, Vicky, no. Go ahead, my child.
Please.
We won't speak until you. You know what? Yeah, you know what? Speak. Speak right now.
Basically, I was going back to the whole thing. I feel like there were quite a lot of like characters that were very one-dimensional.
He's
I broke
so
him.
red. Who is the prince that was promised? Who's his high?
Fuck.
That was never cleared up, was it?
No.
That was the one question I wanted answered throughout Game of Thrones.
Jon Snow has always been a character that has put, do I stick to my guns of duty and honour, or do I betray what I want in this life?
I don't think he would have had the balls to kill someone he loves. Who
It's a tough
would
one,
have
isn't
the
it?
balls to kill someone they love? Cersei. I feel like Cersei would have the balls to kill someone she loves.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jamie? No, not Jamie.
I don't think Jamie. I was thinking Jamie, but I don't. So my theory, my personal theory, because I know, like, ignoring the prophecy and all of that, my personal theory was that if, you know how Cersei was pregnant, I thought that if her pregnancy killed her, it would be like Jamie killed her, so he would become the Lord of Light. Sorry, the prince that was promised.
Beric Dondarrion and the Hound.
I love.
First of all,
Hound.
We're going to get onto the Hound in a second because everybody loves the Hound. All of us here love the Hound.
Yeah.
So we'll get onto him in a second. Beric Dondarrion's purpose. Why he's been kept alive 6 times. What was his purpose?
Apparently to save the Hound.
Was literally just to stand like this in front of a door and go, ugh! And then what did he need to do? He needed to hold the door.
That's what that meant. That's what the hold the door thing meant. It was so Beric Dondarrion could be the door for once.
Shut the fuck up, Twitter.
Imagine Hodor being the symmetry to Beric Dondarrion. But Hodor was holding the door, and Beric was the door.
Let's now get on to the subject that we all know and love. The Mountain and the Hound. I love the Hound and what he goes through. What he is, what he becomes, what his ideals are. The reason why he never wanted to become a knight is because he saw all knights basically are they hold their duties of honor, valor, protect the innocent, whatever. But all the knights he's ever known have only ever killed the innocent. Him and Arya's relationship was great. They hated each other, but he needed the money and she needed someone to look after her. So they just kept going with it. When it gets to the final battle, the Hound says to her, "Don't live your life of vengeance because it's not worth it." Mm-hmm. That was one moment in season 8 where I was just like, "Oh wow, that's cute."
Some
Don't live your
for once.
Yeah, exactly.
In terms of character deaths in that entire season, that probably was one of the better ones.
I agree.
The last thing I want to talk about is worst coupling or worst pairing in Game of Thrones.
Worst relationship. Well, it's really low-hanging fruit, but Jon and Dany. Let's go for a more interesting one.
Yeah, aside from Jonathan and his aunt.
Brienne and Jaime, whilst their relationship ended in a really bad way, I hated the fact that they had sex because it just goes against like what they were as characters.
They were like me and you having sex. It's disgusting.
It's just weird, and like I don't like the fact that I liked the fact that Brienne was chasing another guy that she could never have, and I liked that. And she brought out... No, yeah, she was chasing another... Yeah, she first fell in love with Renly, and then she fell in love with Jaime, and I liked the fact that she was chasing another guy that she could never have, because it just gave her a little bit more to her. I
never felt like she was in love with Jaime. And I never felt like Jaime was in love with her. Their relationship, to me, translated as very, very platonic.
She was in love with him, but she never showed it, and I kind of like that. It's not like the heels. She just never showed it. She was always respectful to him, and always like he's the lord of the Lannisters. I could never fall in love with him. I think he's.
Do you remember the dude Arya slept with in the at the end of
Gendry?
Gendry, yeah.
That hits it. That I really didn't like.
What do you guys think of Sansa?
Oh my god. Oh.
I like Sansa.
Choke me.
Sansa is a very difficult one. At the beginning, Sansa was great. She was learning about, again, like her sister, that the world is cruel, even outside of cities, and in the world of politics, life is cruel as well. Great, fantastic. But there is a but. I felt like she could have been a representation of what her auntie was, Lyanna Stark, of being like a proper warrior, a warrior leader, rather than just being a princess.
I get where you're coming from, but I feel like I know Daenerys isn't a pretty princess type character, but I feel like from a young, innocent, pretty little girl doing whatever to the warrior queen, I feel like that was more of a Daenerys arc that the writers wanted to go for.
Yeah.
But Daenerys never filled that arc whatsoever.
She never filled it, but that's what the writers were aiming for. So I don't think they wanted to create Sansa to be a mirror. She doesn't fit that warrior vibe. She wasn't meant to be a warrior princess. She was built to. I don't think the writers intended to make everyone lack some form of political brain. But she had that. She knew how to play with people and be like,
For
with
sure. Like she knew
oh,
how to
what's
make
his face?
alliances, she knew who to play with at what time.
What's his name? Lord Baelish. Like that quote to Lord Baelish.
I'm a slow learner, but I learn.
I also love that she was one of the only characters that absolutely hated Daenerys off the bat.
Oh, good. Queen, we stand. Iconic.
So hard. But anyways, thank you guys. I'm like out of it. I'm like tipsy as hell. I'm leaning on my cupboard at this point. But thank you too for joining me in this Game of Thrones rant. Thank you, Simon, with your brand new mic for added audio quality. It's beautiful. We stand.
No, that's alright.
Thank you, Vicky, for joining us again. I'm so sorry that me and Simon kept talking over you. We are
Take a shot every time I try to talk.
Take a shot every time. I mean, the video's over now. Thank you, everyone, for watching through this. I don't know how you got through this sober if you tried. Like, share, subscribe, simp for Simon, hashtag, so that I can give him some pocket money. And simp for Vicky also. We love Vicky. Thank you for coming on, Vicky, and always educating us about something new in the weird world. Please do subscribe. We're trying to reach 5,000 subscribers by the end of the year. Simon is also starting, that we recorded this at the end of our video that did not process thanks to Zoom. Simon is starting, what is it? Voice acting.
Oh yeah, voice acting. Oh yeah.
Sorry, I said voice things. I'm such a professional. Simon is starting voice acting. So if you need an amateur voice actor, please do reach out and I will send him your way. Simon also does cosplays, so go and follow him at aldrin_HD on Instagram. And follow Vicky as well on Blake Choreography. She does dance stuff. So I wouldn't know when I dance. I don't care what I look like. There are many videos to prove that. Yeah, thank you, and we'll see you in the next video. My hair does whatever it wants, apparently. But yeah, goodbye.